You are live.
Good evening, everyone. This is Cynthia Wenstrom, Chair of the McDowell Sonoran Preserve Commission, and this is our commission meeting Thursday, June 3rd. We will calling the meeting to order at 5 o'clock, and we'll start with a roll call. Vice Chair Lori LaPat Pelasco.
Vice Chair LaPat Pelasco here.
Commissioner Steve Coluccio.
Commissioner Coluccio here.
All right. Commissioner Mark Hackbarth.
Commissioner Hackbarth is here.
Thank you. Commissioner Marshall Lips.
Commissioner Lips is here.
Commissioner Carrie Olson.
Commissioner Olson is here.
Commissioner Smith.
Commissioner Smith is here.
Thank you very much. Public comment.
We
have none this evening. So we're going to go into item number 4, which is thanking our past commissioners and welcoming our new commissioners. A shout out to our former chair, Steve Dodd, for 6 years of service on the commission, and to our former commissioner, Tawana Parker, for her service for 3 years on the commission. We thank you for that. And then a big welcome to our new commissioners, Carrie Olson. Welcome, Carrie, and Jeff Smith. Welcome, Jeff. Thank you for being part of the commission.
Thank you.
Certainly.
You're welcome. All right, we're going to move on to number 5, which is approval of the minutes. These minutes are from May 6th meeting. Any comments, changes, questions?
Commissioner Olson.
Yeah, I had a comment on, let me look for it here. On section 8B, it said a 200 by 100 foot long structure. Listening to the conversation, I thought it was a 200 to 100 foot long structure. Or is it actually a 200 by 100?
What we used for estimating purposes only was essentially a 200 by 100 foot. What we would ultimately ever design would be yet to be determined. But for that purpose, that was the base structure that was utilized in the cost estimate that I presented at that meeting.
So then to clarify, Croy, 200 by 100 foot structure is correct,
Yes.
Stated correctly. Okay, thank you for that, Carrie.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments, changes? All right, hearing none, I will move for a motion to approve the minutes as printed.
Commissioner LaPat Pelasco moves a motion to approve the minutes from May 6th, 2021.
Thank you so much. And a second, please.
Commissioner Hackbarth offers a second.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Hackbarth. And a vote, please. We'll start with Vice Chair Lori LaPat Pelasco.
Vice Chair LaPat Pelasco approves.
Commissioner Coluccio.
Commissioner Coluccio approves.
Commissioner Hackbarth.
Commissioner Hackbarth votes aye.
Commissioner Lips.
Commissioner Lips approves.
Commissioner Olson.
Commissioner Olson approves.
And Commissioner Smith.
Commissioner Smith approves.
And Chairperson Wenstrom approves. Thank you all very much. Moving on to number 6, we have Mr. Justin Owens with the Conservancy update.
Chair and Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to provide an update this evening from the Conservancy. As well, welcome to our new commissioners. We're excited to work with you as we move to advance everything forward. Quick update, as you may recall, it is the Conservancy's 30th anniversary this year. So our June celebrations that we are embracing this month are the creation of our Field Institute in June of 2010, which is now the Parsons Field Institute. As well, in 2009, our Pathfinder program was launched, and it was very eventful from the fact of just a year later in 2010, our Pathfinders, led by Len Marcis, found remnants of the original Stoneman Road military supply route that passed through Brown's Ranch. And then with the city of Scottsdale, worked to sanction them to conduct field studies. And in 2012, they presented these findings to the city. So two amazing highlights for our 30th anniversary looking into June. As well, we continue to work on our special edition Mountain Lions magazine to celebrate our 30th, and thanks to the forward progress of getting past the pandemic, we are still looking forward to getting together for a couple of 30th anniversary celebrations this fall, and we hope that all of the commissioners and city staff are able to join us. Moving into our work on science, since the last commission meeting, we held our annual Parsons Field Institute update, which includes our stewards, supporters, academic and scientific partners, and members of the public. This update provides us with a great opportunity to provide updates on our projects as well as our scientific priorities. This year, even virtual, it was very well received and led to a lot of great questions. And we're looking at, as we hold these in the future, if we do them in person, virtual, or potentially both, as there is so much more interest in our work year after year. As we mentioned last month, we launched our tortoise telemetry project in our partnership with Arizona Game and Fish. And I am proud to report we have now tagged a total of 14 tortoises. So thank you to Commissioner Olson and Coluccio for your help on that work. As a reminder, we are tracking them for 2 years to help us better understand the species itself, in addition to looking at the impacts of urbanization and other stressors through their areas of habitat and migration. Quick update on our education program. Our Education Implementation Committee has finalized their work, which included the creation of our full education pillar, which I'm proud to report our framework for our education program moving forward is which everything revolves. So everything is connected and always changing is the theme that we will be using moving forward on our education programs. As well, you are probably all familiar with our Expedition Days program that had been in person for 4 years up until this year when we had to move it virtually due to COVID. We have always looked at this being a 3rd and 4th grade program. We're super excited to say that moving forward, Expedition Days 3, as we'll call it, will be just for 3rd graders so that the teachers and the students can get specialized curriculum specifically for 3rd grade. And as we move into our next fiscal year, starting in July, we'll be creating Expedition Days 4, which is an entirely new program for the 4th grade specifically. And we're very excited that the Mesa School District and Scottsdale Unified School District have signed on to help us with the development of ED4 and further refining our ED3. The other thing that I'm excited to share is, if you remember when COVID hit and schools were initially canceled, moving into last summer, we created our our Conservancy Kids Online video programs that came out every 2 weeks. So students had an opportunity to learn and engage while they were on the summer break. The team has done an amazing job revamping those and revisiting those, and they launched this week, and we're actually upping it. We're sending one out every week this year. So that'll be happening for the next 12 weeks so that all of our kiddos that are at home for the summer will still have an education and learning opportunity about the desert. I'm going to go ahead and close out on the great work of our stewards that we've been doing since the last month. Our pathfinding pilot out at the trailheads continues to be a great opportunity for us to engage with the public, and they are extremely grateful. The amount of accolades we get for people seeing our stewards back out there has been amazing, and we continue to work with Scott and Croy and the team on finalizing our plans for restarting all of our activities once we get to the fall. Last but not least, I'll ask Scott if he can go ahead and share something on our screens. Some of you may know we were very fortunate enough to secure funding from a very significant donor within our organization to create a new topographical map for the Gateway Trailhead. This family donated that map in honor of their son, who had sadly passed away. He was a lifelong user of the preserve, as are they. As you're seeing on the pictures above, with Scott and John and the team on installation day, coming out and moving, I can say Scott and Jackie were our brilliant photographers, so I'm thankful for that. This one has a gorgeous cover on it to help protect it for many more years to come. You can see that dedication to the Choose family on it. When we had our dedication a couple of weeks ago with the family out there, we had about 20, 25 folks that came out to celebrate Michael and the dedication of the map. I'd really love to say thanks to Scott, Croy, the entire team for their dedication on this. You'll see Yvonne was out there with me that morning. That is Ed and Pam, the family that provided this great resource for all of our Pathfinders, all the users of the preserve. And I can say from standing there for a couple hours that morning, every single user of the preserve was in true awe of how amazing this map is and the upgrade that we had had over the previous one. With that, I would open it up to any questions from the commission.
I've got a question. A question for you, Justin. It's Cynthia. Just curious to know, when we do expedition days for third graders versus fourth graders, is that tied to their curriculum, which is the reason for the difference in the two programs?
Yeah, so this year we redesigned the program completely to match next generation state standards. And because we were embedded in third and fourth grade, we included third and fourth grade curriculum standards. So the goal by going out into ED3 and ED4 is to be able to design curriculum specifically that they would need to meet in the classroom, that therefore gives the teachers the opportunity to let us provide that.
That's great. Thank you for that.
You have questions from Commissioner Olson, Coluccio, and Palasko.
All right. Commissioner Olson, you have a question.
Hi, Justin. Thank you for the update. I was wondering about the education series for kids. What kind of volume of utilization or usage or views you're getting with that? And I don't need the specific, but is it, tens, hundreds, thousands, or what is it? And how successful? You sound like it's being very successful. Is it something that will continue on in the future?
Great question. Yeah, Conservancy Kids Online was a pilot that we launched last summer because of COVID. All of the parents that said, wait, I usually send my kids to summer camp or daycare, and now they're home and I'm home. So we had launched it as an opportunity for fun education series. And we had really good viewership last summer. I can say we actually had international viewership. We were up in the hundreds, and I think we passed about 1,000 by the end of it. But we had folks in Australia and Europe that had viewed them as well. And all of the feedback was how amazing they were. So that's why we're excited this year with the team going back and refining them and making them a lot more deliberate instead of what the team did last summer, which was really reacting to what can we do to provide content ASAP. So we anticipate that they will be shared even broader and more expansive this year.
Thank you for that, Justin. Commissioner Coluccio, you've got a question?
Thank you very much, Chairperson Winstrom. Justin, I know that the Pathfinders, would be interested in hearing about what the expectations are regarding the requirement to wear face coverings while on duty.
That is a great question. Thank you, Commissioner Coluccio. We're still operating under the city guidance that volunteers, contractors, and employees of the city still maintain face coverings when engaging with the public. I know that Scott and Croy are much more up to date on that because they live and breathe it every day, no pun intended on a face covering. But we are working as fast as we can as the guidance evolves from the city to be able to roll that out to our volunteers. So I know Scott and Croy may know more, but they do update me as soon as they have further guidance.
And that's not really an agendized item, but what we can say is, as Justin just responded, it is consistent both with the Conservancy's proposal for the pilot program, and as we evaluate the evolution of COVID numbers through the summer, the city broader policies will continue to be reviewed, and we will update as we get back to next year's peak season.
Thank you,
Justin.
Roy and Justin.
And Vice Chair LaPat Palasko has a question.
No, I don't have a question. I just wanted to thank him for all the information. It was very helpful. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, that's the easiest question I had today.
Thank you, Justin. Great report.
Wonderful. Thank you all.
Item number 7.
I'll just do a very quick introduction here. You're going to have several folks speaking to you on the update on the wildland fire mitigation plans and projects in the preserve. With us today, we have Dave Ramirez, who is our wildland coordinator, and we'll be updating you on projects and grant proposals and things of that nature. And then we also have our fire marshal, Mark Zimmerman, who is with us through Zoom and will be updating us on several aspects of Firewise and other elements of fire protection, both in Scottsdale and in the preserve. So with that, Mark Zimmerman, our fire marshal, is going to start the presentation.
Good evening, commission members and Chairperson Winstrom. This first map, this is gonna be pretty quick because I know we're busy and you guys have got a lot to do, but this first map basically shows you the 1 mile buffer around the preserve and the number of structures in there. This is what we're working so hard to try to protect from a fire coming from a lightning strike in the preserve and then going westward, or hopefully something happened, I mean, not hopefully, but not wanting something to happen within one of these communities that then pushes out toward the preserve. So the Firewise program is creating a defensible zone around many of these communities, and we're looking at more of them. But you'll notice that we're close to 18,000 structures. So in this map, you're seeing what communities we're working with. The green communities are already Firewise certified through the National Fire Protection Association Firewise program and listed on the website. The orange ones, and there's about 7 of them, are pretty heavily almost there. Hidden Hills will probably be the next one in the next couple weeks. Legend Trails number 15 is one that we thought was kind of dead in the water about 18 months ago, but it turns out for the last 18 months, they've been doing all the work on their own, finding the money in their budget. So that's a big win for us because we know that that's surrounded entirely by either state land or preserve. And they are 93% compliant with their homeowners, which is way above what the national average usually is for a community. The national is happy if 70% of the homes are Firewise. So DC Ranch number 20 is the big one we're working with. They're hoping to do that, but we're working to try to keep the communities and get the communities that border this preserve to become Firewise and create that defensible space behind their homes, which would give us a little cushion if somebody did do something crazy in their backyard, that the fire wouldn't be quite as quickly moving out of that area. So any questions for me?
Yes, Fire Marshal Zimmerman, this is Chair Winstrom. I have a question regarding the new communities that are in process of being built. Will they automatically be Firewise required, or will they be built out and then have to certify for Firewise?
The latter. The Firewise program is a volunteer program. We highly recommend it, and we work very hard to get the communities to do it. The communities right now that border the preserve, let's just say McDowell Mountain Ranch is one of them. We're going to start actively marketing to those communities to see if we can get them to do it, but it is expensive. We're coming up with some programs and looking at grant possibilities just for HOAs from the state to help pay for it, because that's really the biggest burden. But the big Story Rock developments that's going on at 128th Street and Ranch Gate Road, that kind of goes right up against the preserve. That is our next problem, but they will have to be completely built out, have their HOA created, and then we'll have to work with them. We can't do it on the front end, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you for that, for clarifying.
Commissioner Olson has a hand up.
Commissioner Olson.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for the update. I'm new here, so maybe this has been covered previously, but I would just if you could give a quick update. What does a community do when it becomes Firewise?
Okay, real quick, for a community to become a Firewise community, we have the national guidelines are a 30-foot defensible space around your home. With our NAOS and our sensitive land ordinance, there was a compromise made that at least on the back of the homes, since most of our homes have a fence around the back pool area, or the fence goes down 22 homes because the land behind it's owned by the HOA as a tract. And all that's NAOS. We made a deal with the sensitive land people and the NAOS people to allow us to use 20 feet of that. So a community would build a 20-foot defensible space around their perimeter. The first 5 feet is down to bare mineral earth so that we can walk fire crews between the back of the house and the fence of the house and the oncoming fire if one was coming in, and either put the fire out or move it around the home. It's what we call bump and run. Then the next 15 feet out from that, going into the preserve or away from the house, is a thinning, raising the trees up to 4 to 5 feet, separating the plant material. So there's 15 to 24 inches between plants, taking all the invasive red broom grass and dead grasses out of that area, taking out desert broom and any other invasive plants, and not really manicuring it, but making it have plant separation so that the fire can't transfer from what we call ladder fuels, which is the dead red broom, into the larger sages and acacias, and then into a tree. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I believe so. Thank you. And communities, the homeowners of this community all volunteer. They get together somehow and vote and agree to do this to their homes.
Yes, actually, the community itself, per the guidelines, has to create a Firewise committee. It can be people that are on the HOA already, or it can be others. Usually it's a few others from the community that are interested in it. They have to have a Firewise day once a year for education of the community members. They have to technically spend $24 a home a year, but it's not really any money passing hands because you can use volunteer time, you can use in-kind time, and just all these homeowners associations have a much larger than that bill for their normal landscape company to come in. So it's a community involvement program. I think I lost my train of thought, but I apologize.
No, that's all right. Thank you. I appreciate the update. Sounds like a great program.
Thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? All right, with that, thank you, Mark. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
With that, Dave Ramirez is going to take over and walk us through some of the ongoing efforts that have been recently tuning up edges of the preserve and other places.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So this is a photo that I took this spring when I was out on the project that we were doing on 136th, which is the northeast edge of the Sonoran Preserve. And so you can see we have the red brome, heavy red brome from the last 2 years. Record rainfalls in the winter produced a very heavy crop of that red brome. So, we still have a lot of potential out there on the preserve. You can also see a lot of that dead and down, that the dead brush, those heavy fuels out there. So when we do have a fire, it still puts that Sonoran Desert at tremendous risk. Before and after photos, this is kind of what it looks like. When you look at the shoulders of these roadways and you have those dense fuels, when you have those dense fuels, those roadways just are not effective control features. And so by us brushing that out, removing all that dead material, all of that heavy brush, doing some thinning work, it really puts us in a nice position to be able to use those roadways as a control feature and stop fire. Another picture before and after on 136. You can see that heavy brush component on the shoulder, and we'll go in and thin it out, and a pretty effective control feature now. More before and after, removing that brush. A lot of storm damage from a couple of years ago. We had a pretty heavy snowfall, and it just makes a world of difference on getting all that lower material, and Chief Zimmerman talked about that, those ladder fuels, removing those. And this is right off of Rio Verde Drive. When you first get on to 136, how heavy that brush component is. right across the street, you've got structures and those communities are lined up there. So it was a great treatment, 5 miles of treatment that we got done. A lot of community support. Everybody was really happy with the work that we were doing out there.
And Dave was out there virtually every day, hearing a lot of that. And we got good response as well from people that were sending in emails and stuff.
Yeah, it was a really good team effort. The folks in the fire department, the Jody Pierce and his staff, the folks that got the VMS boards out there, like say, it was just outstanding. Everybody pulling together to get that work done. So, I appreciate everybody's hard work. And then we did another stretch from the intersection of Pima Dynamite on the north side of Dynamite and, up against True North. And you can see how heavy those fuels are again on those roadways, lots of heavy dead and down. And it just makes a world of difference. This is what's going to allow firefighters to get in there and safely deal with these fires. And we'll puts us in a really nice position to be able to stop fires. So, as we kind of talk about this, a lot of what you're seeing now, we're going to be proposing we're putting in a pretty big grant request tomorrow. It's for $500,000. The match, for the city that we're putting up for the in-kind, all of our time that we put in to make these things happen is about $600,000. So it's just a great project, great effort. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in North Scottsdale. And, we've got the vendors and we've got the staff and everybody works real well together. So pretty exciting time in Scottsdale. And, the feedback that I've gotten from other communities in the greater Phoenix area, everybody's looking at Scottsdale right now and what we're doing. And that really puts us in a really nice position. This is some of the mechanical treatments and, that we're proposing. And I'll kind of hand it over to Croy.
I just want to clarify, mechanical means we're thinning. Yeah. And some of that's handwork, but some of it does have chainsaws and other things going on. And I just, I probably did a disservice. Both Mark and Dave have a lot of years of fire experience. But Dave comes also from the Tonto National Forest. And he has been working very hard to get connectivity to the Tonto National Forest, which he already has great connections, but APS, WAPA, who have the power lines that run through the preserve, as well as the state land department, who owns lands abutting the preserve, the county regional park. I'm not going to go through them all, but Dave's been really working that. That's part of the effort that he is leading amongst many throughout the organization. And we are meeting on a regular basis internally, usually every 2 weeks, sometimes every week, and just a whole host of things. Some aren't on the preserve, some are adjacent to the preserve, and some are within the preserve. So it just varies. And so the graphic that Dave, and we're working with our GIS folks, we're getting all this stuff so that it's interactive. And it's going to help us with our effort that we're going to talk about in a moment on the policy. But these graphics are going to be interactive to where not only can we tell you square footages associated with all those things, but we can tell you whether we recently did the thinning treatment or whether it's 5 years old. Because everything on here in 5 years after you've done the work, you may have to do rework of it. And maybe in 3 years, maybe in 7 years, it'll depend on rain. Mother Nature is going to impact us and affect some of that as well. And so we're going to have to just keep a track on that. And that was part of our presentation back on the wildland fire costs. And so Dave's referencing costs that include what we're committing to in the preserve, whether we're funded or not, but we're committing to. And then there's things throughout the city that Mark was just talking to you about with regards to Firewise, with regards to Dave's work with state land and some options along major road collectors near their undeveloped lands. And there'll be, I think the long-term goal that both Mark and Dave would speak to is we intend to keep growing these programs. I don't know if Mark, if you mentioned specifically, but I know one of the goals is to continue to grow the Firewise programs and market it more aggressively. And the stewards are helping the fire department with those programs. So it really is, this is not any one individual, but Dave's a great addition to the team with his focus. But, we've got our staff, we've got community services staff, we've got fire, of course, a whole host of fire staff, providing focus. So it may be a nice, short, sweet presentation that you get here, but there is a tremendous amount of support behind this. And so with this graphic, the next slide is just a build on this that shows you what Dave's been talking about. The areas in green highlight things that have been done in the last 2 years. And 136th and Pima Road's been being done with some other programs. We've also worked internally with our trailheads, most of them, but those weren't necessarily done to the full extent that we've identified now that we want to go to. So this next slide builds on that. And in our next 2 years, we intend to hit all of these other areas. And that's just in the preserve. Dave and I didn't coordinate on the priorities of other programs, but with the grant funding, if we're successful with that, many of those other blue areas and Firewise communities will be included that this graphic wouldn't represent. But that is part of the program. And we'll be back to you probably at least twice a year, if not 3 times a year, just to keep you updated. And whether it's Dave or Mark or, Scott's been doing a good job of just keeping you updated on, some of the progress on the thinning projects. But we'll keep you updated on those on a regular basis. And then Scott's going to talk to you about our upcoming yearly event.
Yeah, just a quick shout out to the stewards and the Conservancy. These are some photos from last year. We, of course, again, this year are planning to do our early closure of the preserve on the 4th of July. The main reason we do that is with the fireworks sales legal in Arizona. We don't want people coming into the trailheads on the 4th of July to shoot off fireworks. Occasionally, we've had some issues with folks trying to get into the preserve after hours on the 4th of July to be able to climb the mountain to watch the fireworks from the mountain. So just, various concerns like that. So the stewards have been very effective in the program with the 4th of July closure. We're going to close at noon this Sunday, July 4th. We will be pushing out notices here shortly to the public so that they can, if they were planning to do a hike on the afternoon of the 4th of July, that there's other places. Pinnacle Peak will still remain open. They can go there or to some of the county park areas. But again, just wanted to give a big shout out. The stewards are crucial in this effort. They like doing it. It's kind of a camaraderie thing, and it's turned into sort of a fun thing over the years. But what will happen? You see them standing there in front of the gate. If the stewards weren't here and that gate was just closed, there's a tendency for people to sometimes just park out front, ignore the sign, climb over the gate, and go on into the preserve. So the stewards are there to prevent that from happening, and also to redirect people. When they show up and like, gosh darn, I really wanted to go for a hike. There's other suggested areas that we suggest to people on where they can go. So another quick shout out, and I didn't have a photo for this, but on the 4th of July, when this is happening, the staff from the Scottsdale Fire Department that staff our brush truck are out patrolling. They'll visit the stewards. They'll just check the areas. They're out and around the community. I was around a bunch of the preserve trailheads last week, and I bumped into the guys in the brush truck like 3 or 4 times that day, because as I was driving around, they were driving around. So when you see them in the brush truck patrolling the areas, give them a wave, give them a thumbs up. And as Corey was saying a minute ago, it's all of these efforts with the staff from fire, the staff from the preserve, the stewards, the general public working together as a team to make all of this happen and keep the preserve protected.
That is outstanding. Questions from our commissioners?
Carrie?
Yes, Carrie, you have a question?
Yeah, hi guys. Lots of people to thank, and this is a really exciting program. I know I drive Pima Road a lot and have always worried about the fire because there's just so much material there right on the road. And the thinning looks great. And my question may not be for the fire department, but I'll throw it out there. I'm wondering what the impact of parking is. It feels like we just opened up a huge parking lot all the way along Pima Drive. And there are periodic no parking signs, but we get lots of people parking in there. And as the grass rose up, are we going to be susceptible to fires from exhaust pipes and whatnot? And I wonder if there's anything being done about that.
Well, I'll start and anybody else can chime in here. One thing that we didn't get into as much detail, but part of our strategy is not only to do the thinning that we've just done, but we'll also be applying what we call a pre-emergent in those areas. And what that does is keep the grasses from coming back up. And we also on Pima Road, and it was done this year, our field services crews go in and they use a blade to clear the immediate shoulder area and to create a lip so that if someone does throw out a cigarette or if a spark comes off the chain of a trailer, there's a clear area and there's kind of a little berm that keeps it from going further. Then the area behind that is what has been cleared and what would then be treated with pre-emergent. And that's where we'll have to stay on top of that, commissioners, in that whether if we get a lot of rain this year, we may have to go back in a couple of years to thin back out. If we don't get much rain over a couple, 3 years, it might be 5 years, but that will be a program that I'm sure we haven't exactly had to do it yet, but we will jointly assess because our fire staff are always out there, our preserve staff are out there. We'll keep an eye on that and look to mitigate that and manage that. The parking issue itself is something that we regularly work with the police department and our transportation. We have signage in some areas. We have, in some areas, strategically located rocks to discourage people from going off-road. And over time, some of the road improvements will put in vertical curbs that typically most passenger cars would not jump. And so it's a multi-pronged strategy is the long, short answer to your question that we will continue to work on. We've made great advancements from 10 years ago when we were starting to acquire these lands, but we still will continue working on that. And I open it up if anybody else wants to answer that, but excellent question and on target to the things that we pay attention to.
Any other questions, commissioners? Thank you both to Dave and to Mark. This is really important to all of us on the commission and probably all of us in this room. So we appreciate your work in conjunction with the Conservancy, with the city of Scottsdale and so on. So thank you.
Well, like I say, it is a real team effort and the staff that we work with, it's just phenomenal. Scott and Croy's staff, they helped us out so much with it. And it's like I say, a lot of people, a lot of communities in the greater Phoenix area are looking at Scottsdale.
Good.
So tip of the spear.
Proud to be Scottsdale.
Yeah.
Thank you both all. All right, with that, we will move on to number 8, a policy process, next steps and financial report update from Gina.
I'll just do a real quick, this first slide here is just kind of the reminder of the policy process. I'm going to come back and visit on this. But you'll notice that at the bottom, we have comprehensive funding review and recommendations. And as we typically do once or twice a year, Gina Kirkman, our enterprise and finance director from the city treasurer's office, comes and updates us as to the progress of the preserve taxes and other things. And so I'm going to turn it over to Gina. You all can ask questions at the end of hers, and then I'll come back in and talk about the upcoming process as we go through the summer and into the fall. So with that, Gina.
Thank you. Good evening. Typically, I visit the commission in late fall to report the latest ending fund cash forecast after the fiscal year end results are known. I'll be back in November or December to give you an update when fiscal year 2021 results are known, but today I'm here to update you early due to recent bond transactions. Taking advantage of historically low interest rates, City Treasurer's Office began the necessary steps to refund existing general obligation bonds issued to finance preserve land acquisitions and land improvements in September of 2020. In December, we completed the issuance of the GO funding bonds taxable series 2020. Bond refundings are similar to refinancing a mortgage. Existing debt is prepaid and new debt at a lower interest rate is issued to replace the original debt. The bonds were issued for a par amount of $168 million at an all-in true interest cost of 1.3%. This is the lowest all-in cost in the city's history. The timing and the market conditions could not have been better for a city with AAA rating. The refunding maturities mirror or are the same as those that were refunded, meaning that we did not extend the time period needed to ultimately pay off the long-term debt in 2034. The market for municipal bonds includes institutional investors, typically banks, investment funds, insurance funds, and the like. The market submitted orders for over 5 times the amount available. This oversubscription from some of the most prestigious investors in the market drove the price lower, again reflecting the appeal of Scottsdale securities. The refunding generated $13.3 million in net present value savings, or nearly $1 million annually. Of note, the deal is a taxable deal and carries a make-whole call option, meaning it can be defeased at any time, with the investor receiving par, accrued interest, plus 15 basis points. It's not likely that there will be a market that will drive using this feature. However, it gives the investor some assurance that they will be made whole in the event of a call plus some return of the 15 basis points. An important element in our ability to issue refundings at low interest rates is our strong credit rating history. A credit rating assigned by an independent rating agency helps the market to efficiently evaluate and assess the credit risk over the life of the debt issuance. In November of 2020, 3 major rating agencies reconfirmed their highest rating of AAA. Also of special note was the credit rating agency's continued support of the city, despite the effects of the coronavirus pandemic experience to date, given that the rating reviews were conducted nearly 1 year into the pandemic. The results achieved were fantastic, and possible due to the efforts of the City Treasurer's Office, the City Attorney's Office, an external city financial advisor, and bond counsel. Now going back to a familiar presentation, the preserved cash flow assumptions. Fiscal 21 through 25 sales tax forecasts are equal to the preserved financial plan used for budget development. Fiscal 21 sales tax forecasts were decreased by nearly 10%, mirroring the 17-18 actual collections. Fiscal 22 through 25 are increasing at an average rate of 5%, reflecting strong recovery. By 25, the forecast returns the sales tax collections to just over 11% over fiscal 20 actuals. The remaining years, fiscal 26 through 34, sales tax forecasts are increasing by 1.5%. Fiscal year 21 through 25, interest income again forecasts the 5-year financial plans used for budget development. Also in the forecast, preserved land improvements are forecasted at $2 million annually, except for fiscal 21. The land improvements are forecasted at $7 million. Debt service is scheduled to be paid off in 2034. This forecast assumes no further refunding opportunities or new issuances. Sales tax forecasts assume no change in taxable commodities. Cash flows have not been present value discounted, and this forecast was updated this month. Here you'll see sources of revenue include 2 sales tax authority authorizations. The first, approved in 1995, is forecasted to generate $122 million. The second, approved in 2004, is forecasted to generate $287 million, and interest income is forecasted to generate $5.7 million. Total sources is forecasted at 415 million. Uses or expenditures include land and land improvements of 33 million, professional services for audits and tax documents of 40,000, debt service of 338 million, and fiscal agent fees related to debt service of 210,000. Total uses is forecasted at 371 million. Beginning budgetary fund balance plus total sources less total uses equals a forecasted ending fund balance of 90 million. Finally, a review of funding options. The commission has a process and a history evaluating funding sources for a variety of future preserve costs. Previously, funding sources discussed include the items noted here. In prior discussions, the Preserve Commission acknowledged these opportunities but decided for various reasons not to act on any one of them. Briefly revisiting the prior discussion, ideas and concerns include extending the existing preserve sales tax would require voter approval. The first sales tax designation of 0.2% approved in 1995 ends on June 30th of 2025. Or in place of extending the existing preserve tax, a second option would be to propose a whole new preserve tax at a new rate. In both of these ideas, the cost of election can be significant and voter opinions could be unfavorable. The next idea, establishing a special property taxing district. For example, a streetlight improvement district where property owners within the district agree to pay for operating cost of the district. In this example, the electrical expense of the streetlights. Again, when forming the district, the cost of the election can be significant and voter opinions could be unfavorable. An additional complex issue includes district boundaries would need to be established. Entrance fees, parking fees, and other fees have revenue generating capacity. However, each could face citizen opposition and it may be difficult to articulate the cost benefit nexus. Additionally, there would be cost to staff and monitor collection and enforcement of these fees. While we've had naming rights on the list of options, this is not legally allowed with outstanding tax-exempt debt on preserved land acquisitions and land improvements. This idea will have to be shelved until 2034. Adopting a trail sponsorship may have opportunity for a small funding source, but could also be unreliable funding source. Nonprofit fundraising could be significant if the effort receives substantial attention, but could also include its own costs or become an unreliable funding source. And finally, trusts have been discussed as a stable ongoing funding tool, but would require significant upfront cash deposit, of which the forecasted sales tax ending fund balance is not eligible to be used. I will take any questions if you have some.
Questions, commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Coluccio.
Thank you very much. Gina, the $90 million ending fund balance that's shown on one of the slides, what happens if that money is unused at the end of 2034?
That is a good question. It cannot be used for preserve maintenance. It could be used for improvements to your trailheads. For example, if you needed a bathroom or additional parking, it could be used for those improvements. It could be used for additional land acquisitions. But again, it cannot be used for maintenance of any kind.
Thank you.
Okay, I have just one question, Gina, on the preserved land improvements are forecasted at 2.0 million annually, except for 2021. I just kind of missed what that was speaking about. Would you mind just clarifying?
You'd like to take that question?
I'll take that.
Yes.
And, what I guess I'll start with an emphasis on, that's something we're going to visit
Okay,
within the policy process.
okay,
It's kind of been a number that we've always tried to give Gina a number to plug in.
right.
And we need to revisit it now that some of that is dollars we're spending right now on the Pima Dynamite trailhead. And
Okay.
we do know there's been some discussion about things, and one of them that we presented, and I think I noted whatever the last meeting we had was the wildland crossing, of having the commission had said, let's at least have $2 million noted for that.
Years
And
ago.
yet we projected it could be 10. So we've simply given Gina a number to fill in that blank and have something there. It's not meant, again, these are projections.
Right.
And so to the extent that we're trying to look 14 years in advance and know exactly what's going to happen is difficult. But we ask Gina every time to do it and she comes forward anyway. And so that will be part of our dialogue and discussion about all the costs that we're really talking about. But specific to that, it really is that category of trails and trailheads.
Got it.
And we'll revisit that and we'll talk about, some of it has been used to, we've resurfaced portions of parking lots that we've replaced, the equestrian parking areas, or we've added parking, or we've done this or that. And we're not trying to say it has to be that number. We were just providing a number to fill in the blank. So if that number were lower, that means the 90 could be a little higher. If that number were higher, the 90 could be lower.
Okay.
And not arguing one way or the other, just saying that's the nature of it. Plus, if sales taxes don't come in as strong over the next 14 years as projected, the number could be lower. And the thing I always like to remind people is we don't have $90 million to spend today.
Right.
If you wanted to, you could bond against that, but then you would lower that 90. You can't bond $90 million because you got to have the debt service room in there. And typically we might say you could bond for 60 million and the debt service might, cost you 30 million. And Gina can correct me if I'm off on my.
Just throwing numbers out. Right.
But those are the types of things that we will,
Okay.
as we have that dialogue about land and about other improvements and the existing taxes versus the option of possibly looking at other taxes down the road or a new preserve tax in 2025. Those would all be the types of things. And so Gina, we talked about just giving you a little bit, and with new commissioners on board, just a little reminder that we've had past discussions about these, and the concerns aren't meant to be all, we're not trying to throw cold water on it. Those have just been the comments that have come from commissions in the past that we can come back with a much more detailed matrix of that. We've got them already. And that could be part of one of the discussions later in the summer or in the fall that we go through that and spend more time. I think Gina mentioned that she would have the refined numbers after we close the fiscal year. And that's typically that October, early November range. We'd have numbers closed out. So we'll, and we do this every year, kind of come back in and refine the look, because it's always altering a little bit. COVID comes along or something else, then we have to be prepared to adjust our projections. And it looks like Commissioner Olson has a question.
Okay. And just
thank you.
Sorry.
Sorry, I cut somebody off. But first off, Gina, thank you. And wow, great job in refunding and getting the interest rates down that low. That's incredible. That generated some extra money in that account. My question was back to the trust that you talked about. You said that the 90 million is not enough to be a trust, and it would obviously take a vote or some activity to even use that 90 million for a trust. But do you have a concept of what the size of the trust would need to be for an ongoing maintenance program?
Actually, the 90 million would be plenty. However, the sales tax, the way that those two authorities were voted on and approved, do not allow it to be used as a trust. So 90 million is far more than what you need to establish a trust to set up a funding source for ongoing maintenance. But you're not allowed, per the voter authorization that gave you the authority to assess sales taxes.
And if I could step in there, some of the discussions of the past, I'll say 5 years, had looked at with right now, that projection of $90 million, some of those dollars haven't been collected yet. And so one theory was we could go back to the voters to have them alter the second sales tax, because that's really where the new dollar generation would be, and ask them to amend what those dollars could be spent for. That raises a lot of political questions that aren't commonly raised or known. And even we could go to the attorneys and they might say, well, possibly, but we could be at risk of a lawsuit. Now, we're not going to give you the full presentation tonight, but to your question, we've debated that, and it may be easier to simply identify if we want dollars for land and improvements or other things that are already allowed, let those dollars play to that. And if we want to look at a maintenance funding solution, propose a new sales tax that might pick up as the expiration of the 2025 timeframe. And then you could go to voters with clean language explaining what it would be about. And that's the purpose of our process, is to identify what costs could be considered, what costs you want to recommend as a commission to the council, and the council give us feedback later this fall, and then set up for a possible vote in 2022 or 2024. So Commissioner Olson and others, that's still in the range of things we would discuss, but trying to use the existing dollars, although theoretically possible, may have some real political and other challenges that might be other strategies we want to figure out to get there. We've got time to figure it out. We'll spend more time debating that, but that would be the long, short answer to that question.
And just to clarify, that's because that's the way the dollars were designed when they were voted on, correct? Okay.
Exactly. The language in those two votes.
Okay.
And the first vote, the one that expires, is land only.
Mhm.
And it's pretty well fully committed.
Right. Mhm.
It's the second vote of 2004
Mhm.
that expires in 2034 that said land and improvements. And generally, we would interpret improvements as trails and trailheads. And as Gina said, and the lawyers have been very clear with us over the years, if we want to go in and maintain something, sweep it, clean it, whatever, that's not a viable dollar that those dollars can be spent on today.
Today, yes, understood. Okay. Did that answer your question?
Yes, I appreciate the insight. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions, commissioners? All right.
Do you have a follow-up?
I don't. It was just to clarify that Gina was saying we'll have refined numbers in October or November of this year.
Correct.
Right after the fiscal year closes out. Okay, thank you.
Not that these numbers aren't good, but we'll have a new
But,
set
you
by.
know, there's always going to be some refinements. Okay, thank you.
With that, then I'm going to come back and just refresh us all on the process. And this slide simply highlights the 7 key categories. We have the land acquisition, we have the preserve operations and maintenance, the research and education, our corridor protection, and that's like wildlife crossing and some other things. And then we have invasive plants, wildland fire mitigation and restoration projects, trailheads, trail master plan, cultural master planning, and then what we were just talking about, a comprehensive funding review and recommendations. So with that, over the course of the past 5-6 months, we've been updating this document, and you don't have to try and squint your eyes and read this. The next slide starts to blow them up. We focused, and just a reminder that our primary guidance that the commission has asked us all to focus on is that we're going to use the existing preserve ordinance, its purpose and management objectives, and that our key goal is that we're looking at the long-term sustainability of the preserve for the next 25 years and beyond. And I'll just note right now that, was it just Tuesday night, the council was identifying their priorities. And in their priorities included looking at land acquisition and looking at long-term maintenance. They had a whole host of things that are out there. And some of the top vote getters, I'm sure won't surprise anyone here, were the preserve. And so this dovetails in very perfectly with what we're working on here, their expectation, and back to the idea that sometime probably in the fall would be the opportunity for a work study session with the council to be able to review these ideas. So the whole program that we've been identifying here And the next slide starts picking up on these 7 categories that we will look through those and provide conceptual ideas, definitions. And then the next slide, I think, or one more here is the big matrix. And this is what I've teased you all with. This is your homework assignment. We'll be providing you inputs into these. And the whole goal here is that as we look at these 7 major categories, we'll identify costs, and be they yearly costs or what we've called a recurring or non-annual cost, or in the idea of land acquisition and certain capital improvements, one-time costs, that we come up with a total package here and be able to, we want you all to be the ones who really lead this effort and are comfortable with it. We'll do everything we can to support you and give you the background and answer your questions about how much it costs to clean a toilet when we have as many of them as we do, and we do it twice a day throughout the year. We are more than happy to be as transparent with our numbers as we can. And we've got like I said, we've got a big team working with us. Our goal is the example of the wildland fire stuff is all that's being loaded into GIS. It's being tied into a database. So we know the square footages, and whether that's the pre-emergent treatments, whether that's the thinning treatments, we'll be able to give you updates on all of that. And our goal will be then, as we work through these, and I think my next slide starts to talk about, is we'll use the next couple months now to start pulling together a couple different things. We've got all these ideas out there. We've been presenting more than half of them to you so far. We've got some more to bring to you, but our goal has always been, and COVID got a little bit in our way, but our goal has been to get a web page dedicated to this effort that would probably use something to that spreadsheet that I had up before, that will be able to allow you or the public, anyone on the website, to be able to access that, to drill down. For those that were here, we had the presentations, be it from Scott, be it from others, be it from Tiffany with the Conservancy, that provided great background on the problems with invasive plants, the problems in restoration, the concerns on wildland corridor protections. We've had great presentations on wildland fire consideration. So all of those things, people would be able to access that. Plus, we would have the spreadsheets behind the estimates. So that if someone looks at a number and goes, well, why does it cost $90,000 or whatever it was to clean restrooms?
I will never live that down.
Well, it's a great example. It's a great example.
It's minutia.
And that's why we have,
That's perfect.
that's the perfect example of the commission representing the citizenry and helping the council understand, because there will be a lot of numbers here, whether it's $1 million or $2 million or $100 million for land. And a lot of people, that's huge. And we don't spend that in our daily budgets at home.
Right.
And so, but being able to quantify that and you helping us understand, well, that number, where does it come from? That's perfect. And our goal would be to get all this in a web page, in a communication format, and be able to hit the ground running in the late summer, early fall. We can hopefully, I was chatting with the chair before the meeting started. We still don't know where COVID numbers will go, but we have policies about when can we get back to in-person meetings and be able to go through that. And that's just something that we'll need to continue to coordinate on. But if we can do that late summer, early fall, that would be ideal, because then your ideas can also get vetted by the broader public. And we can do it virtually online, or we can do it hopefully at some point in face-to-face meetings. And, Scott, it was identifying a great way to do that. We have 7 categories. We have 7 commissioners. It would be wonderful to have an open house hosted by the commission that has a commissioner at each station with staff and with others. We can invite all of our support group to be with us. I know Dave Ramirez has a lot of passion with this, and he would love to be at the Wildland Fire Station if he's available that night, and talk to people about this. Because again, it gets back to, this is never going to be successful if this is just a staff proposal. This has to, as the vision of the preserve came from the citizens, the vision of protecting the preserve for the next 25 years needs to come from you, the citizens, as well. So that's our vision of what we're looking at being able to achieve. Our goal will be able to do that. I don't have dates for when we get to the commission at this, or to the council, excuse me. My suspicion is it'll be more in the middle of the fall somewhere. So the time that we have
For the work study.
for the work study. And so we have a good deal of information. We can spend some time, late summer, early fall, get everything put together. It doesn't have to be the final package. The idea will be we go to the council. The council gives a little bit of ground truthing to the recommendations that are coming forward. Then we can go back in the winter and the fall, refine that so that in the spring of 22, we could be presenting to the council. And that's where the political decision will need to be made. Do we go forward? There's only every 2 years, there's only one time that we can go for a vote. And that's the fall of an even numbered year is when we can go for a vote for a tax request. And so fall of 2022, so 18 months from now, whatever that is the first option. The next one theoretically would be 2024. Those are both before the 2025 sales tax expires. So it gives us time to align with council, political policy items. So we have time. We can be ready for 2024 if everybody thinks that's good. Maybe the economy is giving us pause and we don't want to go politically at that point in time. Whatever the logic and the reasons are, those are things that the greater collective of the council, the commission, and the community would sort out.
Right.
But that's the process we've got set up for you, and I'm happy to take any questions at this point as to our next steps.
Commissioners, how do you feel about that opportunity to have a public open house with us working stations? Yes.
I think this is an absolutely tremendously great idea. I think it gets us more out there, gets the public more. I think this is really, really good.
Perfect. Yep.
Commissioner Coluccio?
Okay, Commissioner Coluccio?
Commissioner Coluccio is all for it. I think it'd be a great opportunity.
Outstanding. Commissioner Smith?
Commissioner Smith is all for it. I think it's a fantastic idea.
All right. And Commissioner Olson?
Yeah, I did unmute, so thank you. For voting in 22, when would we have to be through with our process and our recommendation through city council and through city council? Because I got to believe there's a lot of time spent putting something together that would go into the voting ballot. Is what kind of timing is that?
We would want to be getting, and we'll have to spend time with the city clerk, the city attorney, the city treasurer on all these items. The general idea, I think typically a fall vote has to have council action by June or July. But you would want to be getting them to be debating that probably late April, early May, in order if there are revisions or thoughts to that. So by having ideas to them this fall, they give us feedback, and then we use the winter, early spring to refine, update any ideas, and then get those back to them so that if you were making recommendations by March or early April, and we had it teed up to be in front of the council April, May, that would be and I'm going to caution this, that I need to spend a lot of time with the city manager, the city treasurer, the city attorney, and the city clerk. A lot of coordination there. And we'll get a good read on that in the council feedback session that we would have sometime this fall. And so I think we'll have a very good sense at that point as to where we're likely to be going and be able to update that at that time.
But it sounds like we would be about 8 to 9 months out before we'd have to have that from where we are today.
Yeah, 10 months.
10 months, okay.
I'd say March is when we'd want to be wrapping up. In worst case, early first meeting in April, if we had something. And the sense is we're going to be able to, find the common ground that you all would like. And again, getting that feedback from council, because they're the ones who have to actually approve putting it on there. So ultimately, we need to hit the target with them. And like I said, 2022, is one option. 2024 could be the other.
Is it bad?
And that has a lot to do with the political winds and things that you have to sort out as well.
Okay, perfect. Any other
I'm sorry.
questions? Say
Yeah,
again?
Just to follow up on my question, this is Commissioner Olson. Is there reason we should be trying to push for a few more meetings over the summer? Or, I mean, I noticed we've got a fairly long break here. We've got, that's a pretty aggressive schedule and all. I just wonder if there's something we should be trying to accelerate on our end to move as quickly as possible.
We do always have that 2-month break in the summer, Commissioner Olson, and it is something that Corey and I just barely touched on before we started meeting today, that if we got numbers in place, that it would make sense to have some kind of a later summer meeting just to kind of update us all and basically keep us on our toes.
And I would just follow up on that. We're happy to look. What I can do is you've already been exposed to one of my surveys for availability of time. We can look at, there's a number of, with virtual meetings, there's a number of weird things we have to sort through, availability of technology time and things like that. None of them insurmountable, but it does require more staff time. We have technology staff supporting Scott and I to do this. So we just need to schedule that in. I need to look at all your schedules. Obviously, I don't think we'd want to have a special meeting and not be able to have all 7 of you join. So what I can do is spend a little bit of time looking at the calendar, and I'd look probably later in July or into August. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll just send all of you a general request to get back to me with your general timeframes of late July and the month of August, let's say. We know the first meeting in September. So if we've got something, at least one in front of that, I think we could do kind of a kickoff meeting that would summarize everything and allow you to feel up to speed and ready to roll on items. And we'll be doing some other homework as well to give you some homework to do. And so there's plenty of opportunity for that as well.
How does that sound, commissioners?
That sounds great.
Sounds good.
Okay, good. Thank you. Item number 9, staff reports.
Yes.
Scott.
Chair Wenstrom, commissioners, I am going to give you just a brief update on Pima Dynamite trailhead status, which will be a teaser for our field visit that we have the poll out to you right now. The construction is proceeding along quite well. The building steel kind of outer covering has been progressing pretty quickly. This is the eastern elevation of the building, and where that gentleman is working, you can kind of see where you can see through it a little bit. It's actually perforated metal panel, similar to what we have out at Tom's Thumb, where it's providing screening from the angled sun, but also allowing you to be able to see through it a little bit. The interior of the building is proceeding. This is inside the restrooms. You can see the backer board for the tile. You can see the pipes sticking out of the wall there, getting ready for our plumbing fixtures. Landscaping has been underway. These are our nursery grown trees, some of them that had been delivered. I happened to show up just and park right as this gentleman was putting one of the trees in place. So it's always, you see them growing, but you never see them like this where they're being put into the ground. Here's just a shot of some of the landscaping that had been installed. Landscape boulders are going in. This is, he's placing that boulder in the landscape island that is kind of in that wagon wheel area we have always talked about, where all the trails are going to emanate from. So that's coming together. The front entry gate is in and on its track with the screen wall. This is the entrance off of Pima Road. Also, this is the sign monument wall, kind of looking right down the angle of it. You can see this is the formwork has been pulled off. You can see it lying there. This is how we create that board formed concrete look. So this monument sign will look just like the one that's over on Dynamite right now. Also very similar to the one that's in front of the Fracefield trailhead at Dynamite. The grading of the parking lot itself is progressing well. They've actually, this is them preparing the subgrade last week. Now they're starting to put in what we call the ABC, the aggregate base course, which is the gravel, the compacted gravel that goes underneath the asphalt, is actually being installed this week. Just another shot of them grading. And then just a reminder, we talked about this at the last meeting. We will be in July making a change to the parking where we're going to temporarily close the south entrance off of Dynamite and reroute everybody into the new permanent parking lot. We had our construction meeting this morning, and we are more than a month away from this happening. I've asked the contractor to, as construction progresses, to let me know when it looks like we're about a month out, and we're at least more than a month out right now. So we'll continue to keep the commission updated. And then as we start to get within that month period, once we know when that is, we'll start to work on public notices so that the users of the trailhead of the gravel parking lot are going to know that the change is coming. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions. And again, when we come out later in June, we'll be able to walk through the site and kick some dirt and see how it's going and answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions? Thank you, Scott. Good stuff.
Pleasure.
Nice pictures. Got good catch on the tree going into the ground there. Craig, do you want to take number 10?
Yeah, real
Upcoming
quick.
meetings?
This won't take long. Thank you all. You've gotten back to us on the options for that. I will visit with the chair right off after the meeting. You can take the Wednesday and Thursday off. That is not, those are not good dates for the group. And we'll get back to you. Might send out something tonight or worst case tomorrow morning. And I don't have a unanimous day, but so if we do miss, if someone's not able to make the date we choose, I'm sure Scott and I would be more than happy to give anyone a separate tour in the ability to catch up and not feel like you got left out. And again, it will be as a tour that we will caution you at the meeting that this is not a meeting and you're not allowed to have debates, or you can ask us questions, but any proposals or things we would have to put on the next agenda, and we would then have a discussion about it there. So all we really want to do is give you the opportunity to see everything just before it opens up. And you can ask us questions about how we're proceeding and some of the trail refinements and trail signage, but we wouldn't be making any decisions. We never do that in a tour. And so we'll get back to you very quickly on that. I then simply had the dates of September, and I was guessing we might want special meetings for that, those 3 months. And again, the idea of having a special meeting, say late July or August, we'll get a survey out on that and we'll talk about that as well. So that's all I have on that, and we're happy to move on to the next item.
All right. I think we're all very excited for the Dusty Shoe Tour. It's always exciting. So
There will be some dust out
there
there.
will be some dust, yes. Number 11, commissioner comments. Anything that you'd like to add, anything you'd like to see that we put on our future agenda? This is your opportunity, or in something good for the good of the commission. Any comments? Yes, Commissioner Olson.
Yes, I was wanting to put something on the agenda. I'm interested in an update on the 128th Street through the preserve, as far as, what impacts it has on the wildlife and movements, what options have been considered, and potentially what are the next steps if we wanted to move forward with a recommendation to City Council.
We will make note of that. And I do know that there is some, we'll work with the transportation department in particular, but there's also police, fire, planning concerns. So that will take a little while to coordinate, but that early fall, we'd be able to be back to you with an update on that and have an opportunity for dialogue and discussion on that.
Commissioner Olson, you keep us on our toes for that, okay?
All righty.
Okay, thanks. Anything else, commissioners?
Hackbarth?
Okay, Commissioner Hackbarth.
Yeah, I have a question about whether we've heard back anything from the Maricopa County Flood Control District. Will you give us an update on their monitoring?
I was just gonna raise that point myself. I forgot to under the other Commissioner Hackbarth. And we'll have to get back with you. We may just need to do a presentation on our own, but we can update you is on the general data questions that you had, but we haven't been able to get the county representatives in that. So we'll follow up on that.
Thank you for that reminder, Commissioner. Anybody else?
Commissioner Coluccio?
Commissioner Coluccio.
Oh, thank you very much. On May 28th, we received a public comment number 343 from Mitch Louie. And in his comment, Mitch talks about the challenge of crossing Rio Verde Drive there on the Gooseneck Trail between GN2 and GN3.
Right.
I'm a frequent user of that trail or that part of the trail, and I can echo Mitch's concern. Over the last couple of years, the traffic on that road has just increased significantly. I went across it a week or so ago, and I literally had to run in order to get to find a spot to run through. So obviously, probably not a smart thing to run with your bike, but that's okay. My question is, sometime in the fall, there's no rush on this, but sometime in the fall, can we have a discussion? And we touched on this just briefly at the meeting on, was it May the 4th, when we were discussing the wildlife crossing. Is it possible to have a discussion about, what we potentially could do in terms of pedestrian or hiker or biker or equestrian safety on that particular section of the road?
Short answer is yes. Scott and I have already had some exchanges with our transportation department, and we will continue to research that and see, just explore the options and the considerations. We did work with transportation when the Gooseneck Trail was built, and we will follow up with them, as I said, and we'll certainly be able to give you an update in the fall. I saw Commissioner Lips.
Commissioner Lips?
Oh, yeah, I'm here. My question has to do with, I heard the other day that the signage for e-bikes had been removed by probably disgruntled e-bike users. And I was just wondering if there's some way of putting up a more permanent style of signage. Because I'm presuming that it was the placards or something that were there.
I mean,
The sandwich boards?
let me first say that the sandwich boards are there, but the posters were gone off of a couple of them. We had some super windy days. It's not uncommon sometimes for them to blow away. I mean, so quite honestly, we don't know where a few of them went. But it's not uncommon that we have to replace the posters, which is in, I wouldn't be surprised if they're up already. If not, they'll be back up tomorrow.
And there are also times I drive out and I see that they've fallen down and, we'll just pull them back up. But we are looking at more permanent. And so we will continue to work on that. And but there's no, our goal is that they will remain up.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Good questions. Anybody else?
I'm not seeing any other hands up. I just want to make sure that I didn't inadvertently drop a hand if somebody else had a question.
Any other questions? No other questions. Good comments, everyone. Thank you very much for that. We will move on to 12, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting at 6:24. Anybody?
Commissioner Hackbarth makes a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Commissioner Hackbarth. And a second, please.
Commissioner Coluccio, seconds.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Coluccio. All right, great. Thank you very much. And let's vote on that to adjourn the meeting. So with that, it'll be Vice Chair Lapat Palasco.
Vice Chair Lapat Plask votes yes to adjourn.
Commissioner Coluccio.
Commissioner Coluccio votes yes.
Commissioner Hackbarth.
Commissioner Hackbarth votes yes.
Commissioner Lips,
Commissioner Lips votes yes.
Commissioner Olson,
Commissioner Olson votes yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Commissioner Smith votes yes.
All right, and Chairperson Winstrom votes yes. With that, we are adjourned at 6:25 by my clock. Thank you all very, very much.